Record. And I appreciate you joining me today for Coffee with Katie. As you all know, I think most of you know, maybe Alex, this might be your first one. You might be our only newbie here. I do these once a month as a way to give back to the cooperative community that's given so much to me. Typically I'm drinking coffee, or today I'm drinking water, but it's just a way to take a break and connect with other cooperators across the country and do a little learning and a little networking. So today our topic is catchy subject lines. And if you have taken any of my sessions before or paid attention to my sessions before, I've done a few of these on email communication with your owners, with your members, and how really important that communication is. And I've included tips and templates and things like that for email communication, but we've never spent any time really talking about the subject line of that email. So today, that is what we're going to do. Let me rearrange my screen here so I can see you all and everything else I need to see here. So today we're going to talk about why these subject lines are so important. We're going to talk through two approaches to creating your subject line. Then I'll give you some of my tips and tricks. And then I have some examples to share with you. But if we have time, I thought we could brainstorm. We could have someone in the group give us an email that they're about to send out or soon to send out, or talk us through their email, and then we can brainstorm some subject lines together. So we'll go ahead and get started. If my computer will work as it should. Let's go to the next slide here. Okay, so an email subject line is important because it really is our sole opportunity to get the recipient to open it. So really and truly, it's pointless to send an email if no one's going to look at it, if no one's going to read it. And we all have so many email in our inbox, upwards of 50 to 100 emails sometimes. And when you think about work email and personal email and co-op email, volunteer email and sales and promotions, all of these things bombard our inbox. So if we want to stand out in that very cluttered, very crowded inbox, we really have to create a subject line that gets the reader's attention and gets the email opened. That's really very important. We make that decision in a split second. When you look at your email inbox, you decide, in an instant, what you're going to look at and what you're not going to look at. So that subject line really is important. And it really has to stand out if it's going to get opened. So there are two approaches, and there are lots of approaches. These are two approaches that I like when we're talking about email subject lines. One approach is urgency, and one approach is intrigue. So we'll spend some time going into each of these two approaches in a little more detail. The first being urgency. I don't know why it does this. It likes to take its time. But when we're using an urgent subject line, we are encouraging activity in a certain amount of time. We want people to take action right away, to read the email today, to sign up for this or that class, right now. Registration closes tomorrow. We want it to sound important and urgent, and we want to get the reader's attention. So this type of email really instills action, because when we're looking at our to-do list, we know, we have 10 things to do today. One of them has to be done by tomorrow. Well, that's probably the one I'm going to do first. So that's what we're doing with these urgent subject lines. We're creating the need to take action now. And the action we want them to take really is to open the email. That's the first step, because we can't get them to do anything else unless they open that email. Creating a deadline creates urgency. So there's not always a deadline to the email that we're sending, but many times there is a deadline. And when we implement that deadline, we are creating urgency. This works really well when there is an actual deadline. When we're encouraging folks to sign up for the cooking class and registration ends tonight. So that inspires urgency. Sign up today. Today is the last day to sign up. Those are the type of subject lines that create urgency. It's really important though, either when we're creating our subject lines, either using the urgency or the intrigue option, that we're authentic. Like we don't want to communicate a false sense of urgency. We don't want to scare anyone or present any kind of misleading subject line. We want to be accurate and forthcoming, but we want to inspire urgency. I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure that I cover everything I wanted to talk about here. Okay, so intrigue is the next approach you can take when you are creating your email subject lines. And ways to create intrigue include posing something unexpected. So one of the examples that I saw when I was researching this is that, you say something like, this was in the educational field, teachers aren't teaching math today. That would be a subject line. And really the body of the email is about National Read a Book Day. So of course, the focus is on reading a book. So it's unexpected and it's a little bit catchy. It gets the reader's attention. Another subject line I was thinking about, that related to our field would be like, everyone's eating junk food today. And instead of, the body of the email could be about a new line of natural and organic beef jerky, or something that qualifies as junk food, but falls a little more in line with the clientele that we are usually communicating with. Another way to utilize intrigue when you're creating your subject line is to ask a question. And asking a question automatically instills a thought in the reader's mind. So they have an answer to the question, or they want to know the answer to the question, and they want to see if their answer matches yours, or if you're going to tell them the answer. So oftentimes email subject lines that ask a question will get opened before those that don't. And there are simple ways to ask that question. Something as simple as, are you ready? Well, ready for what? I want to know what that email says. Or something like, what's special about today? Well, I want to know what's special about today. Is it somebody's birthday? Did I miss something? So asking that question really is a good way to create that intrigue. Another way is to use random numbers. And so I've seen co-ops do this rather successfully when we're talking about membership numbers. So something like, here's to 1,342. That's all the subject line says. So then you're like, 1,342 what? So then we open the email to see, oh, we have 1,342 owners as of today. How exciting. Or, 600, or not 600, that's too high, like maybe 68. Here's to 68. And then the inside of the email, the body of the email talks about the 68 farmers that support our store or that have become owners or something like that. So using random numbers is another way to create that intrigue. And interjecting mild controversy. And this one is, you have to make the decision for your co-op if this is a viable way to create intrigue, but interjecting some mild controversy into an email subject line can be humorous and can get some activity. And, there's simple, easy ways to do that. Like, we're freaking out could be your subject line. And so we're freaking out about what? What are we freaking out about? And then we get that individual to open the email. So there are lots of things, that you can do to do those things. And here are some of the ways that I go about email subject line creation. The first one is keeping a file. And so what I mean here is, in your inbox, keep a subject line folder. And when you get an email that has a great subject line, move it into that folder. So that when it comes time for you to create an email subject line, you've got a whole slew of examples that can give you some inspiration. That's one of my best tips. One of the features I use, or one of the tips I use pretty regularly. You want to keep it short. Subject line should be 6 to 10 words. You don't want to write a paragraph here. This is a headline. This is not the full beef of the article. This is just a teaser to get them to open the email. You want to limit the use of exclamation points and emojis. There's a place for them, absolutely. And you have to decide when that place is, but you want to use them intentionally and sporadically. So we shouldn't have 10 exclamation points or 5 or 6 emojis following a subject line. Keep it pretty straightforward. And this one is the tricky one. And this is the one that when I'm talking folks through this process, this is the one they struggle to do, but the one that has the most value, in my opinion. And that is to create 10 subject lines. Sounds like a lot, right? How am I going to write 10 subject lines? But when you get started, it's really not so bad. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust this light here. So you want to create 3 subject lines that are urgent, 3 subject lines that are intriguing, and then 2 subject lines that just pop into your head. The first 2 things that come into your head, and then 2 that don't fit the mold. And I like to do this with a partner. And so you can split it up. I create 5, they create 5, or we each create 10. And then you come back together. And sometimes it's a piece of one from me and a piece of one from my partner that really is the winner. And doing that really is a great way to get the right subject line. It takes a little time, takes a little commitment, but it's worth it. Because remember, if they don't open the email, there's no point in sending it. All of the work you did to write the email, create the graphics, edit it, get it approved is for nothing if they don't read it, they don't open it. So taking that extra few minutes to create 10 subject lines really is important.
Katie, could you
yes.
repeat those? Could you repeat your 3 this and 3 that?
Yeah. So 3 from the urgent category. So we talked about the urgent and intriguing. So 3 urgent headlines or subject lines, 3 intriguing headlines, then 2 that just come to you, the first 2 that come to the top of your head, and then 2 that don't fit either of any of those things, just 2 unrelated ones. Or uncategorized. Yeah. And thanks for asking the question, Carol. Everyone, please feel free to jump in at any time with questions as well. Not the final tip, but another tip I have is to use a split test. And what we mean by that is that you create 2 subject lines and you send half of your recipients subject line A and the other half subject line B. And then you check the open rate, which one gets opened better, or which one gets the more opens, the most opens. And then if you do that repeatedly, you choose one from an urgent category and one from the intrigue category. If you do that enough, then you can begin to identify what your audience is responding to. So then, if time and time again, the intrigue subject line is opened more, well, then okay, so that's maybe the route we need to go for our subject lines. We want them, the more intrigue we create, the more they are apt to open our email. And then using the recipient's name. Most of the email tools that we're using now, MailChimp, Constant Contacts, lots of other ones, allow you to personalize the subject line. And once upon a time, someone told me that the most important word in anyone's vocabulary is their own name. And so when you see your own name in the subject line of the email, it's already more important than every other email in your inbox. So that's a great way to get attention and hopefully get the email opened. Okay, so here's some examples that I like. The clock is ticking. It's not too late. We need you to join today. There's a deadline. This is your moment. The most important question of the day. And you won't believe this. That one I really want to open. What don't I believe? And we can't do this without you. That one brings the person in, brings the recipient in, makes them the hero. Another example is what's special about today, and everything's moving so fast. We need you. This is what we need you to know right now. And X things you don't know about why, so 3 things you didn't know about bananas, or I'm like, what about bananas? I want to know about bananas. Here's to 1067. That's another one of those using numbers to create that intrigue. And here's how farmers are doing right now. And so perhaps it's a focus on a farmer or a new farmer who's joined the co-op. So I'm going to stop talking for a second and we can answer some questions, and then we do have plenty of time. So what I'd like to do is for one of you to think of an email, or perhaps you have an email that you're ready to send out, and you can talk us through it a little bit. Let us know who it's going to and what the audience is and what the content is. And then maybe we can brainstorm a subject line. So before we do that, though, let's just take a second and answer some questions, or have some conversation about the subject lines.
I have a question, Katie. So I am in charge of sending out an email once a month on happenings for that month. And so my subject line, I always put April newsletter, May newsletter. And we usually get right around upper 40s, low 50s.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Or open.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But how boring is that? So how can I spruce that up?
Yeah. Okay. So one tip I would have would be to comb through your email and pick out something exciting, a tidbit of information in the email that could be interesting to the reader, and then go through that process of creating 10 subject lines just about that one little thing that in the email that you want to highlight, and do the urgent and the intriguing task with that. But I definitely would shy away from the April newsletter, May newsletter kind of title. I think is creating a habit for your reader. Like, oh, this is the April newsletter, I know what's in that, I don't need to read it. It just tells me what's happening at the co-op. It doesn't get me to open the or get me to open the email. So I would shy away from that and try to fine tune the subject line based on one of the events, one of the happenings in the email. Yes, Susan.
I guess excuse me, the only problematic thing I could see about that is you might have a lot of various things in your newsletter, and maybe the person sees that particular thing that you put in the subject line. They're not interested in that, so they don't open it, but they might be interested in a lot of the other stuff in the newsletter. I mean, if your newsletters are consistently interesting and have a variety of things, I think people are more likely to open them. Or like in my newsletter, our newsletter, I try to always offer something to people that will be of use to them. Like the last one I had, that you can get a free mentor through the Small Business Administration SCORE program, that like a mentor who will provide you with a lot of information on a startup business, whatever it is, and will even stay with you for years. And so that's just an example. Like I try to give them something and hope that they'll want to open the next one, because like, oh, what's she going to give me this time?
Right. And that absolutely is one of the things I recommend, generally speaking, when we're talking about newsletter. Your content has to be useful. If it's not useful and helpful, people will stop looking at it. So absolutely, that is true. What we want to do is get them to open it so they read that useful content. Yeah. And so that's what we're trying to do, is pick out the item in the newsletter that's going to be, appealing to the broadest audience and get the most people to open it. Yeah, definitely.
So Susan, can I ask what kind of subject, can you give an example or two of a subject line that you've used with your newsletter?
Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm more in the purple carrot category, where we just send out May news. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of room on this subject line for other things. I want them to know it's the newsletter, but I'll try to.
You have a good open rate?
Oh, pretty good, like 50% usually.
And is it just going to members, or do you have a lot of other folks who are not member owners?
Well, we do MailChimp, and there's a list of owners, so that's who I send it to. I guess I should actually look through that and make sure they actually are all owners. But I was reading about MailChimp that it's really good to have just one category or one listing and put tags. Like if you just want to send it to owners, you can send it just to owners, but to have everybody in there, even people who are, potential owners or
Mhm.
people who are interested, that you have them all on the same list. And I haven't really done that yet.
Okay.
So it would be a lot of work. And and then
Yeah.
I was wondering too, for personalizing, if you have it set up, so I'm not actually sure on MailChimp. I know like on our spreadsheet, we have couples where
Mhm.
we just have the the names of the two couples in one cell in that column. And I'm not sure how that would work. I guess you'd have to separate them in MailChimp, right?
Well, you'd want to test that. You'd want to test it out, I think, and see how it
Mhm.
works in your system. And make sure that when it comes through, when we do have multiple members of the same household, that it says, Katie and Rich instead of Katie, whatever it would say, like Katie semicolon Rich or whatever, like some formatting issue
Mhm.
that doesn't.
There might be a character limit to
Yeah.
be concerned with. But okay, well, I do several different newsletters, and one of them has the same, like this week's newsletter.
Mhm.
And I have not gone down the road of trying to come up with something snappy every week, because we've built that consistency and everybody
Mhm.
knows, and everybody who gets it is a member. So when I get a 50 to 60% open rate, I'm happy about that, because
Absolutely.
those people, that's a value thing. On the co-op newsletter, we send it to more than twice the number of members that we have, but we still have a 50% open rate, which I think is really good, because we're sending it to a lot of people who've not bought in yet.
Right.
And on that one, we do try to have something clever, something catchy, only one emoji.
Mhm.
And also MailChimp, have you noticed this feature? Those of you who use MailChimp, they actually have a little button that you can push, and it like evaluates your most recent email subject lines specifically. And all it really does is tell you what your open rate is on like your last several newsletters. But when you see them all lined up together like that, it's like, okay, it's just a nice little feedback loop.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Is that what the pay, is it free? The free version has that too, or do you use the paid version?
We have the paid version, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm pretty new to MailChimp. I've always used Constant Contact, so I'm kind of learning reluctantly.
Do you like
MailChimp.
MailChimp better than Constant Contact, or which way do you like better?
It's just familiarity. I've literally
Yeah.
been using Constant Contact for 15 years.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I have two clients now that use MailChimp, so learning as we go. But not to take up all the oxygen in the room here, but I write most of the content, and then we have a volunteer, and she drops it all into MailChimp, and we always joke about she has to write the subject line, because that is not my strong suit. So I told her I was coming to this today, so I shouldn't have. The bar's been raised.
Now the pressure is going to be on, Carol.
Yeah, right.
You're going to have to come
right.
up with good subject lines.
Yeah, and the other thing is MailChimp will create a page for you that you can hang on your website that's an archives of all your newsletters, and all they show is your subject line. So you want to get hit in the face with with your, and I try to be real careful. Like, I don't want to know that I wrote one as opposed to Emily writing one. So that's always my goal, to make it seem like one person's generating
Yeah,
all the time.
right,
And
right.
that
You want it to have the
consistency.
consistent voice, right?
Right. So,
Definitely, definitely.
but it is.
This is Mindy from Rooted Carrot in Iowa. I don't do our newsletter, but I just looked ours up. So we use MailChimp, and we have a name for our newsletter. It's the Garlic Press. So it looks like the subject line is, it comes out the Garlic Press. She's got the date, the May 2023. And then it looks like, and I can't see all of it, and I don't know if MailChimp does this, or if she's actually typing this whole subject line. It looks like she just takes pieces of the article. So like at May, we had a potluck. We had our local high school do some stuff for us. So there was some student stuff in it. We had a membership drive in April, and it's got just pieces of those, each of the articles or some of the articles in that subject line. So when they open it, they get a little bit of idea of what's going to be in the newsletter when they look at that, or when they open the email.
Yeah, and some like Constant Contact gives you a tagline, so you can create the subject line and then a tagline as well.
That might be what I haven't done enough with MailChimp. I get in there and I'm dangerous, so I don't do it. The girl that does it just like whips it out every month after we give her the articles. So
The content, yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, and I think, you know, there absolutely is a time and a place for a structured, titled, you know, creation. Absolutely. I think and especially like in the Rooted Carrot situation, Mindy, that's a tried and true practice that your owners are looking for
Right.
and ready for.
And we use it when we do tabling events and stuff. We ask people if they'd like to receive we're very specific that it's a monthly newsletter. It comes out the
Mhm.
first Tuesday of every month. So it's very specific what we give them. So they're not thinking they're getting on this big long email list
Right, so that they're
to
going to
get
get
everything. They're only getting,
spams.
yeah.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Yep, I think that's a great technique. And that's a great way to grow your list, you know, especially if the content is helpful and useful, like Susan is talking about. You know, you're giving them information that's impactful. That's a good strategy. Other thoughts or questions?
I have a question for you, Katie. I'd like to also see what the other people that are listening in have to say about this. So we're in the process of starting up a capital campaign, and we of course have to approach our members about the capital campaign, explain it, and basically ask for money. So that's always kind of tricky. How do you approach asking for money? Now, some of the members that we have prefer mailed letters, so that's one thing, and some prefer email. So basically, they're both going to be started the same way. And of course, the people on the board, we all have a little different way of trying to approach it. I'm a little bit more dry, a little bit more to the point. I've gotten emails and letters that start out with the traditional lead-in stuff like, hey, you know, the flashy type of, hey, you know, this and then they finally get to the meat of the matter. My opinion, and again, this is just from my perspective, I would start the letter or the email by just saying, hello, this is Steve from the Whitewater Grocery Co-op. It's time for our capital campaign and we need your help, something real to the point. And of course, some of the other board members want, no, let's do a little more flashy. Let's do, hey, you know, exciting news, blah, blah, blah. So your opinion and the people listening in, what appeals, because what appeals to me is something more to the point. What appeals to other people is they want to see a little flash. So I'd like to hear the opinions on that.
Well, Steve, I could talk about that for days, literally days.
We don't have days, Katie.
We don't have days. We don't have days. What I will say, Steve, is that communication during your capital campaign is very broad and via lots of different vehicles. So you're going to be sending letters, you're going to be sending emails, you're going to be posting to social media, you're going to be having direct face-to-face communication. So each of those avenues requires a different approach. In addition, your approach should change through the duration of the campaign. So at the beginning of the campaign, you know, it's happy and fun and hopeful and exciting. And towards the end of the campaign, it's urgent, it's action oriented, it's act now. So, you know, honestly, like I said, I could talk for days about that, but in a nutshell, it's that your tactic is going to evolve and it needs to be tailored to the channel that you're using.
All right, thank you.
But everyone else, I really am curious what everyone else says too.
My first question is this, Steve, is this coming from you personally, or are you talking in general emails that are coming from the co-op? Because if it's you personally, like, did they give you a list of folks that you know that you have a relationship with and asked you to reach out to those people? Because in that regard, it would occur to me that you should use your own voice.
I'm really just part of a committee, so
Okay.
it's not geared at any one person. I just know that there's different personalities out there. Some
Mhm.
people like the flashy, some people like to get to the point.
Yes, Susan.
I'm- I haven't done this before, but I was thinking I might want to approach it by first reminding people of the benefits, like, why did you sign up? Because you want price of food, you want to support local farmers, whatever, support our community with good jobs. But we need your help to make all this happen.
That's good. I like that.
Anyone else have thoughts on that? Okay, well, we have a few minutes. Does someone have an email that's going to go out relatively soon here? And would you be willing to fill us in on what that email says so we can all brainstorm some subject lines for you?
I have one, and this is actually a bigger general bucket, but we have a list of volunteers who've identified themselves as being interested in working at our outreach events. And so we just updated our sign up for the summer slots. So we want to send that out specifically to that group, even though it's getting shared elsewhere. But I really struggle with, hey, we need your help, because that's basically, how do you ask for that help without, I don't know. I'm sensitive to the subject line that we
Yeah.
use.
Carol, can you give us an idea of some of the things people can sign up for?
Basically working at our outreach events at farmers markets.
Okay, farmers markets.
We have a regular gig at a weekly local farmers market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The purple carrot, I mean, it sounds exactly like what's going out in our next newsletter. One of the articles is going to talk about how we need the summer volunteers because, right, you got the farmers market. You just have so many more events to table at.
Mhm.
And we
So
need
this is-
volunteers.
So the ask was in our newsletter. I will put the ask on social. This is a targeted email to the folks who specifically said they were interested in doing it, have done it in the past, or like I said, indicated an interest in doing it in the future. So this is a very specific audience.
And is there anything else in that email, Carol? Just simply the ask and the sign up?
No, it's pretty,
Okay.
yeah.
Pretty direct. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's take a couple minutes. It's 12:37. Let's take 3 minutes till 12:40, and each of us come up with one subject line. Okay, so, and we want to remember the options that we talked about today: urgency, so act now, sign up now, time is running out, that kind of thing, or intrigue. What would be enticing about this opportunity to someone who's going to receive this email? And then there's also the other options that we talked about were just the first thing that pops into your head and something that doesn't fit into any of those boxes.
One of the things that I mentioned was that if you like to volunteer, but you don't have a lot of time to commit, there's perfect opportunities this summer because they're short, one and done commitments. I mean, something along that line. So
Yes,
it's not
definitely.
like you're on a committee and, there's a huge time commitment. It
Yeah.
could just be for 2 hours, once the
Right.
summer for 2 hours. That's,
Right.
short time commitments.
Yeah, that's a good approach. That is a good approach.
I
So
wrote
let's-
down one and done. Good.
One and done. I like it. That's a good one. That's a good one. Let's take 2 minutes. It's 12:38. I'm going to mute. Write your subject line down, and we'll come back at 12:40 and share our subject lines. Okay. Okay. I wrote down a whole bunch of things. So let's see what everyone else came up with. Mindy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I did quite a few too. Volunteers sign up now. It was kind of basic. It's the first one that popped into my head.
That's good, right? You got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And thankful for our volunteers. Now's the time to sign up.
Ooh,
Because
thankful.
yeah, if you're kind of promoting it towards those people that have said they would volunteer, you just need them to sign up for something specific. So we're thankful for volunteers. So I kind of like the one and done.
Yeah,
That was, yeah.
I like
Because
that
we
too.
did something similar with times. Like, do you have an hour that you could
Mhm.
review something, and now you got it? So do you have 2 or 3 hours that you can devote to going to the farmer's market?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And I'm typing these in the chat as we go, just so that we can print the chat out when we're done, in case anyone's, trying to
Thank you.
keep notes. Yep, yep. Good ones, Mindy, good ones. How about Darlene? Did you come up with any others?
I came up with 2. We can't do it without our volunteers. And then the other one was the kind of like the time thing. Want to get involved, but don't have a lot of time.
Mm. That has a lot of words, but I think has potential.
That
1,
could be
2,
a
3.
social post is what I
Yeah.
thought of.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep. Okay, Susan, how about you?
You're great with people, ...
Ooh, you're great with
You're,
people.
you're a great communicator, ... And
Mhm.
maybe people think, that's
Am
nice.
I? Yeah, right? That's cool.
Yeah, but if they've volunteered for tabling before, they like to be,
Yeah.
they like to
Oh,
talk
like,
to people. Meet
You're one
people.
of our rock stars. I'm gonna write down
Oh,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I am. I'll open that email. I don't think Audrey's able to chime in verbally, but Audrey, if I'm wrong, you slip in here and tell us. Otherwise, you can put some topics in the chat if you're available. Alex, did you want to chime in?
I could try. I'm away from my office, so I'm not in a good spot. But I was kind of thinking something like, are you free this Saturday? Please join us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I like that. Yeah. Anything else, Alex?
I kind of overthought that one in several different ways, but they never really sounded as good as the first one. So
All right, we'll go with that one. How about you, Steve?
Well, I really take the more direct approach. At first I said, we need your help. I thought about the exclamation point, but you said limit the use of those.
Like one exclamation point
You
can
can
be
use
good.
one.
Okay.
One is good. Yep.
But I would replace we by the name of the co-op. If it was us, I'd be the Whitewater
Oh.
Grocery Co-op needs your help. You could start it out. I've seen them start out where, hey, you said you wanted to help us, now's the
Mhm.
time. That doesn't appeal to me. You
Mhm.
say, hey, you said you wanted to help, now it's time to, cough up. So I guess I would just say, hey, Joe's Co-op, we need your help.
Gotcha. Okay. I had Carol, did you have some more? Did you have any you came up with?
I kind of went on the urgency of like, do it now, pick your spot, but it needs to some massaging.
Yep.
Not sound so punitive. And this one needs some massaging too, but the basic idea being share your co-op love or your co-op passion or something with your neighbors.
Yep.
I don't know.
That's good. That's good.
How about come play with us this Saturday?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
That sounds like fun. I want to join.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Definitely. So I wrote down, can you spare 2 hours? Do you like hanging out with farmers? Sign up ends on X date. Like, I don't know if there is an X date, but you kind of want to create that urgency, like, hey, or maybe spots are filling up fast. something like that, that creates urgency. And then the last one I had was summer will be here before you know it, but that one, I don't think that one's that good. So can you see how going through this process of kind of brainstorming multiple subject lines and doing it with a partner really can expand, you know, where you end up? It might be a little bit more creative than the, you know, co-op newsletter or something simple like that. Although there is a time and a place for that subject line, but I'm gonna write these other ones down here so we don't do like hanging out with farmers. And you could also like say, do you like hanging out at the farmer's market? Because I like hanging out at the farmer's market and I can volunteer and hang out at the farmer's market. That sounds awesome. Okay, I think we got them all in the chat. So I'll make sure and print the chat or export the chat and bring it, send it with a follow-up email. Do you guys have other thoughts or questions or comments that you want to talk through related to subject lines or any other topic for that matter, since we're here?
You know, one of the things that I've seen that I like from some of the other co-ops we're gathering information from is some of them start with a quote. I've got one on my calendar here. If you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way by Napoleon Hill. That kind of appeals to me a little bit, even though I am kind of matter of fact. Sometimes the quote, if they're a clever quotation, something that's not controversial, obviously.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's a neat way to start an email.
agreed. I agree.
Is that on a newsletter or just an informational? Because I like that idea for a newsletter.
Yeah, I've seen it on newsletters. I've seen it on emails. I've seen it on the promotional material.
Mhm. Mm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of quotes, especially if they're attributed to somebody who fits what we're doing, you know, like
Right.
someone who's walking our walk.
Right.
Definitely.
Yep.
There's a
Katie,
quote. Oh, go ahead.
Kate,
Yeah.
I'll just give you a little shout out. Since we're talking about working at outreach events, we P6'd your training on prepping volunteers to work at
Great.
outreach events. And so we didn't have it was a small group, but we recorded it so we can share it with our future volunteers.
Well,
So
that's fantastic,
so,
Carol.
yes, so just letting you know. The one thing that we wanted to give you some feedback about is you talked about putting all the parts and pieces for your table in a big plastic tote. And
Mhm.
we actually bought one of those stackable, I think it's really originally made for a toolkit, and it's on wheels and you can wheel it around. And also if there's no chairs at your tabling event, you have something to sit on.
Oh.
But it's just really works really, really well for us. So
Genius, Carol. I love that.
it wasn't my idea, but yeah, it's works very well, stood us in good stead.
Yeah. Do you have a like a link to that? What the actual thing you use?
Oh, we'll take a picture of it, send it to you.
Cool. Absolutely. Oh, that
Yeah.
is that would be
Anything with wheels.
exactly right.
Yes.
Carting all this crap.
Much.
Pardon my French.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, really.
Oh, girls and boys, I got so tired of hauling tents and tables and stuff
Mhm.
around that anything to help is such a welcome tool. Thanks for telling us that, Carol. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. And I'm really glad you recorded it because that makes life easier. Next time someone needs to be trained, you can just send them the recording.
We do
Okay.
on the job training is what I call it, because it's
We
so
do that
hard
too.
to individually train people outside the event. So usually I match that one person up with, a lot of times it's me, that new person I'll match up with an expert, and
Yep.
then, you know, they can just see how it's done. And then I have a little couple page thing, you know, with notes on it, what to try to hit, and most frequently asked questions and how to respond. And
Yeah, that works too, Darlene. Sometimes we have to be just in time training, you know, sometimes we
Yeah.
can't plan ahead. But I like that idea of having some materials. Like I would keep a folder in that same box of stuff I'm taking everywhere. So if someone shows up who's never been to any kind of training, I've got a few things I go through with them and talk through those FAQs with them. So yeah, we gotta do what we can to get things done.
Mhm.
and I send it ahead of time too in an email to
Yes.
them, so they can read it over first.
Nice.
Questions.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
We do all that too. We did the session, recorded it. We send the email with here's what you can read through beforehand. We assure everybody that if they're new, they'll always be with a veteran. It's always two people tabling. And we also say, if you just have an inkling of an idea that you might want to know, just stop by and hang around with us for half an hour and see if it, look, so you're not
See if
even
it's fun,
committing to
yeah.
being there. And we've
I
had
love
people
that.
do that. And we've had board members say, this is not for me.
Right.
So, and we honor that. Thanks for saying so. And,
Exactly.
And we'll find something else.
Exactly. We don't want the person it's not for them at the table welcoming people to the co-op. That's not the right, that's turning people away. Definitely. That person needs to be in the board meeting, doing where their strengths are, doing their strength accounting or data, note keeping, whatever it is. They can make their contribution in other ways. Yeah. And that's part of this skill in volunteer management is getting the right person in the right role, and making sure they're happy. If they're not happy, if that person tells you this is not for them, well, they're not going to show up anymore unless you find them something that is for them. So that's another side to the coin for sure.
It's true in business too. I ran my own pharmacy, and when you're hiring employees, it works the same way. There are certain employees that just are not good with customer service. So you don't put them at the forefront of customer service. So they have other roles. If they can perform another role for you, put them in a different role. Maximize what they do good, minimize what they do bad. So
Absolutely. Yep. And really the similarities between volunteer management and employee management are far so many. In fact, they're almost identical outside of your authority to hire and fire. They're very similar.
Yep.
Okay. Other questions or thoughts?
Katie, do you know what your next few sessions are going to be about? Do you take a summer break?
I don't have a summer break planned. I usually take a break during up and coming, which has traditionally been, in the spring or fall. And then I take the month of December off. So I'll probably have September off since we'll have up and coming in December off, but I do plan to have summer sessions. Do you have any suggestions?
I'd really like to just have another social, because Facebook is a moving target. Like they've changed all the insights again, and like everything just seems to be changing on the back end. But also, I think it's always good to have a refresh on what's kind of like what's best practice on like hashtags. Like I see some people put all the hashtags at the bottom of their content. Other people put all their hashtags in the first comment. Some people aren't using hashtags at all. So some of those kinds of things.
Okay.
I'm also seeing, I don't know if others are, but some people are adding a description of what their visual image is.
Yes.
Like two people standing at a table under a tent. So there's some of those kinds of things. I'd love to, get a group together and chat about those.
Okay. Yeah. That could definitely be a summer topic.
if you think Facebook is changing now, wait till Elon Musk buys it.
Oh boy.
Is he talking about buying it?
No, but I'm sure he will after he's done with Twitter.
Any other topics you guys would like to talk about? Well, I have a potential topic for June, but I haven't solidified that yet. So maybe we'll make June social media if that one doesn't work out. And I usually, honestly, I usually come up with the topic. The topic usually happens organically, like
Mhm.
something like this, or I'll be working on something and think to myself, oh, you know what, we don't talk about that enough. Let's do a session on that. So I'm always open to thoughts and suggestions. So if something comes to you over the next couple of weeks or anytime really, you'd like us to talk more about it in one of these sessions, just send me a note. Okay, well, it's 12:56. I appreciate your time, everybody. I hope today's session was valuable. Carol, I hope you get a good subject line. Will you let us know what your subject line ends up being?
Yes, I will. Thank
Okay,
you.
good deal, good deal. I'll download the chat from today's session and include it along with the recording. And you're always welcome when I send this out to share it with whomever within your co-op might want to.
Yep,
to
I
know.
always do. Yeah.
Thanks, Darlene. Appreciate you.
If you get the picture of the thing that Carol was talking
Oh,
about,
yeah, Carol, if
maybe you
send
could
that.
send,
Oh, yeah, I will.
that to us. That would be nice.
Sure. Yeah. I will.
Yeah.
I will
We'll-
send that.
We'll make our little tote thing famous. I don't even know what it's called.
We should come up with a name for it.
Oh, we
Amen.
should.
Yeah.
Can I just share this? You know how you go out and sometimes it's windy. So we finally we should have nice rocks, smooth edge, whatever. So
Mhm.
we got ourselves a nice supply of rocks to put on the papers, on our table. And we have a brand new volunteer and she said, oh, could I take the rocks home and paint them? And so she painted our logo, all the rocks.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, how cool is that? So anyway, that was like our big upgrade. So
Okay,
yeah.
that could be a topic too, like that we all bring our tabling tips or creativity, like, because I'm sure everybody's table is set up differently with different, like the rocks and the totes and the tents and
Yeah,
interesting.
and you in that training that I referenced before, you talked about having an activity.
Mhm.
And so we were actually at an Easter egg hunt, which somebody said they would never go to in a million years, but we went to one and we did bubbles, and the kids made their own little, wands out of paper or pipe cleaners. And then another one, we had a cornhole game. And so some of those, I'd love to get some more ideas about that. It's more stuff to carry, but if it gets folks engaged.
Right. And if it gets people to the table, that's step number one.
Mhm.
Yeah, that could be a good topic too. I like it. See you guys, all these great ideas.
My wife will do fresh baked goods at our table times, which is,
Yes.
we're not, the store's not open yet. So rather than just all the promotional material and the baked goods have a tendency to attract, people, and then they're just simple stuff, cookies and, pumpkin squares and stuff like that. So, but it reminds people that we're not just a clerical business, that we're going to be a real grocery store someday
We have
too.
food. Yes.
Yeah. And that you're attached to good food.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep, it's all homemade.
cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, y'all guys, I'm sounding like I'm from Illinois and Texas all at the same time.
It's making me
You
laugh
guys
so much.
have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Katie.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.